Welcome to the podcast hosted by timecam.com on how to stay on top of your work.
So welcome back to the podcast Stay on Top of Your Work. This is Kate, and today my guest is Chris Cebollero. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I am amazing. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Chris, to begin with, I usually present my guests, but I'd like you to say a few words about you and your work, because you work in healthcare management, right?
I do work in healthcare management.
Yes. And I think it's quite unusual a type of management to work in. Can you say, how did you come to be in this particular field of work, of management, and how did your way to your career looks like?
Yeah, so I started off my career as a paramedic on an ambulance. And, it was my job to come to your home when you needed care 24 hours a day. And I've been a paramedic since 1986. That's a long time. 1986, I know,
Yes.
right? And so throughout my career, I had the opportunity. I wanted to become a student of healthcare. When you're on an ambulance, it's just you and the patient that you've got to take care of. And I wanted to make sure that I could be the best provider that I could be for the people who were calling me. When a mom hands you a baby who's 3 months old, whose heart has stopped, you got to have those answers for her. So I wanted to try to become the best that I could. And then as my career progressed, I found myself finding positions in different systems, private systems, hospital systems. And then in the hospital systems, with my style of leadership, I start to get involved with other departments. I started to get involved with other with boards and committees. And that's what led me to understanding kind of the healthcare environment. And then as I decided to work for myself in 2014, it really gave me the education to help ambulance companies, to help hospitals, and to help insurance companies here in the United States to really kind of do the best job that they could.
Okay, that sounds interesting. So you work in health management. So let's talk about management and leadership a little bit. What does it mean to be a good leader, to lead a company to success?
Yeah, I think that this is such a great question. And I don't know that we spend a lot of time thinking about it, So I think, we spend a lot of time of trying to bring employees into our company. We interview them, maybe we give them a test, maybe we give them personality tests, and then we invite them, come work with me, come work for me in my company. And then we forget how important they are to the success of our organization. What we do is we just say, go ahead and you work here, and if you need me, raise your hand, and don't bother me until that. Well, that's not leadership. Leadership is really an action, and you've got to show leadership every day. And these people who we're bringing into our organization, we've got to invest in them, and we've got to help them grow, and we've got to ask them what their goals are and help them reach their goals and get them to their next level. If we think about how do we grow an organization to be successful, is it that we just get a new building? Is it that we just get new equipment? The only thing in our organization that doesn't lose value is our people. And if we can invest in those people, if we can make them stronger, smarter, more experienced, then our organization grows. And I think this is a big misconception when it comes to the success of an organization. It's not the objects, it's the people that you develop.
So we have to take care of our people. That's important, and we have to remember that. So leadership is connected with people and with managing a team. How to manage a team to create a good atmosphere and to make the work smooth, nice, and just productive.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you have to do is when you do team management, you really have the personalities of different people in the same room. And you want to be able to set the team up for success. So, not allowing to be who they are really kind of stifles who they are. And they won't be creative. They won't communicate. They won't be productive. So if I'm leading a team, I want you to argue with me. if you think something is wrong, tell me it's wrong, but tell me why it's wrong. And tell me why you think it's wrong. And tell me how you think we should fix it. Now, does that mean that we do that? Sometimes no. But I want you to be able to convince me that your position is right. And if I just say, no, we're not doing that, how am I growing the team? How am I making the team the best? So you want to be able to create a safe environment. You want to be able to create a learning environment. And then the other thing that I think is really important is you want to be able to create an environment, Kate, that people can make mistakes in as well. Because when we work in the workforce, we worry about making mistakes. Ooh, mistakes are bad. No, they're not bad. They help us to grow. And allowing the people who are on the team to know that this is a safe environment, that if you make a mistake, we're going to learn from the mistake and we're going to make the team stronger. You're going to have a lot of people being creative and thinking outside the box.
Okay, so I'm also thinking about conflict and challenges, because when you lead a team, there are certain challenges that appear and also conflicts between these people. How can we solve them, and how can we deal with these challenges?
I think first, challenges or conflict, there has to be good ground rules for working in a team. And the ground rule is going to be first, Kate, we don't talk bad about people. We respect everybody in the room. We work together and everybody is valued the same. I'm not going to stand for somebody pointing a finger or saying dirty words or saying the person is stupid. That doesn't happen. Everybody has the same value in this room. Number two, we're going to disagree on the things that are happening, but we're going to do it respectfully. We're not going to do it mean. We're not going to be, we're not going to yell at people. We're going to disagree, and we're going to disagree respectfully. That doesn't mean I have to agree with you. If I have a different opinion than you, I'm going to tell you, and then that's it. Either we work with that or we don't. So then when it comes to conflict, so let's say, so that's going to be the challenges of how people are going to get along. Now the conflict, there's going to be conflict, and how do we resolve that? Well, first off, we need to understand what other people are saying. One of the things that I've done in organizations when people have had conflict is I make the other person, so you and me, Kate, we have a disagreement. So you come into my office and I'll say, Kate, I want you to argue Chris's point for me. And then I'll say, Chris, I want you to argue Kate's point for me. And a lot of times what happens, Kate, is that's just a miscommunication of not understanding what you're saying. Because we could be saying the same exact thing in different words. So when I argue your point and I say, well, Kate, I think what Kate is saying is blah, 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 blah. Then you finally say, oh, wait a minute, I get it now. So that's one of the things to do. But anytime you have conflict, it's always open communication, and it's always trying to understand what the other person is saying.
Mm-hmm. And when you speak about that, I'm thinking about customers and customer satisfaction, because what we create in the company goes to our customers, and this is the result of the communication between people in the company. So how do you think these two things maybe are connected? The communication, the team, how we lead a team, and customer satisfaction.
Yeah, I don't think you have good customer satisfaction without first having good employee satisfaction. So one of the things that I always say is treat your employees like they're your customer, like they're your client, like they're your patient, and then let them treat the customer and clients the best way that they can. So I think that when we think about customer service, when we think about customer satisfaction, it really starts with employee engagement, with employee satisfaction, and with them being productive members of the organization. So I think that needs to be the approach, and not just the approach of we're here for our customer. Really, as leaders, I'm not there for my customer. I'm there for my workforce. My workforce is there for my customers. And, it's true that I do some work with the customers as well, but I've got to treat the people who are going to be standing in front of the customer as best that I can for them to be successful. And in the United States, the Gallup organization, they have a poll that says almost 3/4 of our workforce is either disengaged or actively disengaged from the organizational success. Well, if those people they don't care about being successful, what kind of service are they going to give our customers? So it needs to start with employee satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. So, do you think can we measure somehow how the employees work, or not really? Because TimeCamp is a time tracking software, and it helps employers to track their team's work and efficiency. Do you think it can be helpful in delivering a good product?
I think that what we want to do is we want to be able to make sure that the people who are doing the work are productive. And what's the best way to do that? Well, a lot of times it's, how much product they develop. A lot of times it's how many papers they go through. But it may be helpful that there is a software that allows the employee to see their productivity and that we measure that productivity. And there's a lot of great tools that are out there to do that. And I think that there is great value in that.
Okay. So in order to make an organization grow and to bring the business to success to the business, do you think we should use certain methodologies or strategies, or not really, even when it comes to team management?
I think that leadership is an art and a science, and you've got to know the science before you can paint the portrait of success in your organization. So there are good methodologies out there to do that. But I think that if you want to lead people, you really have to understand that science, some of those methodologies, some of those strategies, because it gives you who you are. Like if I say to you, what's your definition of leadership? You may say to me, this is my definition. I'm not going to change that for you because that's your foundation of leadership. And I want to help you grow from that. Well, the same thing with the methodologies. If you talk about increasing customer satisfaction, if you talk about conflict resolution, if you talk about increasing product, there's ways to do that. And if you understand a little bit of that foundation, it may give you more creativity in how to make that process better.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to talk a little bit about your book, which is titled Ultimate Leadership: 10 Rules for Success. Can you say what 10 rules for success do you describe in your book?
Yeah, so when I think about the 10 rules for success in my career, and I got to tell you, in the beginning of my career, I was not a very good leader. And I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of failure. But I had some successes. So out of the failures and out of the successes and out of the lessons learned, I developed rules. So my first rule is never allow your emotions to dictate your actions. No matter the situation, you never let your emotions dictate your actions. Rule number 2, don't waste energy or time and energy on things you can't control. So these are the rules that I developed along my 30-year career that I had to come up with to be an ultimate success as a leader.
Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about small businesses or startups who begin their career in the huge world. What advice would you give to especially young people, because you have quite a big experience? So what would you say to people who enter the world of business, how to develop a good company?
I think it starts with a vision. So what is the vision of your organization? And we're visual people. If I say to you, think about your car, you don't see the letters CAR, you actually picture your car. So if I ask you, what's the vision of a successful organization? Do you know what that looks like? You have to have that vision so you can see it. The next thing that you do is you have to develop goals to reach the vision. So now that you have the vision of, I want to be the best speaker in the world. Okay, that's a great vision. But now the goals are going to be, I got to learn how to speak in front of a group. I got to learn to be funny. I got to learn to tell a story. I got to learn that those are good goals to reach the vision. And then the plans are, how do I reach that I'm a good storyteller? How do I make that happen? So you have a good vision, you develop goals to reach your vision, you develop plans to reach the goals, and then the final step is you put a timeline to that to make those happen and make that successful.
Mm-hmm.
That's a quick and easy blueprint right there.
Yeah, it is. I have to agree. What is the number one rule in your work without which you can't imagine your life?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would think that the number one rule in my life is just get started. A lot of times we spend time thinking about, what am I going to do? Well, how am I going to do that? What's the best way to do that? What do I need to do it? Well, wait a minute. What's my plan B? What if it fails? You know what? And I realized one thing very, very early. Just start. And then whatever happens is going to happen. And then deal with it when it happens. We spend too much time planning. We spend too much time worrying. And what we need to do is we just need to start.
Mm-hmm. The last question I have to you. The name of the podcast is Stay on Top of Your Work. How do you stay on top of your work?
Well, one of the things that I do a lot is I keep myself in a good time management process. I don't just work saying I got to do this today. I know exactly what I'm going to do today. If I have a project that's going to take me 2 weeks, I am going to plan that 2 weeks out. I'm not going to just do it right today for the next 4 days and get it done. I'm going to do 2 or 3 hours today, 2 or 3 hours tomorrow. And I schedule that and I plan that. People will say to me, well, how did you write 2 best-selling books? Well, the way that I did that is every Wednesday at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock was my writing time. Every Saturday from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, that was my writing time. So I actually scheduled the time that I was going to do those things for me to complete those goals and to be successful in the end. That's how I stay on top of my work.
Okay, that's a great advice. I think I'm going to use it in my work. Okay, Chris, it was my pleasure to have you here today. I think I got inspired and I really enjoyed talking with you. And thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I have to tell you, I'm happy to come back anytime. If your listeners want to learn about something specific about leadership, have them tell you what it is, and I'll come back and help them hopefully understand and give a little expertise.
So, dear listeners, let me know in comments what you'd like me to talk about with Chris the next time he's here, and we'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Also, if you want to find out more about Chris, you can check out the information about him below this podcast. Don't forget to listen to the previous episode of Time Comes podcast, because you can find great pieces of advice there and get inspired by my amazing guests. Subscribe, stay tuned for more, and I see you around. Bye-bye.
This podcast was brought to you by Timecam. You can listen to it on iTunes and SoundCloud. Subscribe to get more content and always stay on top of your work.